Welcome back to Moose on the Loose, your source of uncorrupt media. My name's David. In today's top stories, we've got Justin Trudeau wasting a ton of money on, get this, an affordability summit. Also, the NDP call for a ban on positive oil and gas promotion. Massive amounts of money laundering are being exposed in the Canadian housing market. And finally, Michelle Ferrari calls Justin Trudeau a fake feminist prime minister in the House of Commons. You're not going to want to miss it. So first off, in our top story, Justin Trudeau held a summit in August 23rd, 2023 last year for an affordability summit where he spent nearly $500,000. The hypocrisy. Not only are we learning how much he spent on this, but Trudeau's having a car theft summit right now where he's likely doing the same thing, wasting a ton of money when really he could just be having meetings in boardrooms in Parliament.
We all want to make sure our enforcement agencies have all the tools necessary to prevent auto theft and to get your stolen car back.
We got another video here from the crime summit.
I think the overall message today is that to the criminals out there, we're going to disrupt your activities with everything we have.
Yeah, I think Champagne's drunk on himself here. Let's check out the numbers here. Here's an article from the National Post where he spent, get this, $485,000, $195 for a 3-day summit. Not even, like 2 days. Affordability summit. Really? I didn't authorize this. Did any of you authorize this? I don't want my money being spent like this. This is stupid. What a waste of money. And not only that, Justin Trudeau spent $50,000 on dinner. We've got it right here, all the numbers. I warn you, this is tough to swallow. No, my money and your money and all of our money is being wasted like this. $52,394 on a banquet. They spent $50,000 on dinner. They spent $36,000 on airfare. They spent $58,000 for meeting room rentals. $49,000 on global events, equipment rental. $35,000 on rental of communications and networking equipment. I'm sorry, do you guys not have all this crap in Parliament? You don't need to rent or do any of this crap. You shouldn't be doing this anywhere but in Parliament. I did not authorize any of you to spend any money like this, and neither did the rest of Canadians. We do not authorize this at all. Hotel costs come to $100,000. This is how our money is being spent. Quite frankly, this is how our money is being disrespected. This is coming from a guy, Justin Trudeau, who once praised the basic Chinese communist system as a good system. Is this the path he's taking us? What kind of man is this? What kind of leader is Justin Trudeau? Oh, this just in. I'm getting word on the street here. We're getting a second opinion. Boo, what do you think of Justin Trudeau? Meow. You heard it right there, folks, straight from the cat's mouth. The question now arises, how much money did Justin Trudeau waste on this crime auto theft summit? Is it going to be another $500,000 where they could have just had these meetings in their meeting rooms in Parliament? Instead, they got to treat themselves to a fancy banquet when the rest of us are eating discount produce from No Frills and Walmart. Our next story is the NDP calls for a ban on misleading, deceptive fossil fuel ads. So there's some ads that are on bus stops and stuff around Parliament. And my take on this is, yeah, I mean, maybe there shouldn't be those kind of ads around Parliament. Maybe there should be pretty strict advertising around Parliament. What's interesting about this is this new proposed legislation wouldn't allow me to say anything good about oil and gas. Now, I don't really have anything good to say about oil and gas. I mean, it's necessity to life. I mean, like even these headphones, these are made from oil. This plastic, this thing, it's plastic. We need oil in life. It's not like anyone jumps for joy for oil. I just don't like the idea that freedom of speech is being quelched. That doesn't really seem to be a good way to go down. Meow. I'm curious though, what are your thoughts on this topic? Share it down below. Next up, money laundering. This is actually a topic I know a lot about. That came out wrong. The reason being, I used to have a notary office with my ex-wife, and we'd have to report any sort of weird things that look like money laundering, anything kind of, corrupt and shady to FinTrack. I can tell you without a doubt, having to balance the books on a notary office doing about $10 to $12 million of real estate in and out every month. It's by far the most corrupt bank. They just don't... I'm calling it what it is. There was a recent report that basically kind of confirmed that. The reason why I say that is some banks are very diligent about checking where money is coming from, and some banks don't care. So these guys have just kind of cracked open that there's been about $30 billion of money laundered into the Ontario real estate market over the last 10 years. As someone who lived in Vancouver for, 13, 14 years myself, and I worked in the whole notary real estate industry there for a while, it's very easy to see when money is being laundered. You have a kid come over from China, and they go to university and they take like one class a year. They're not actually going to university. And some of them do go to university, but then the parents start funneling ungodly amounts of money to them. They're living in some home in West Vancouver. Back at the time would have cost $8 million. Now they're like 25 or 30 or $40 million. And they'd be buying like 7 or 8, 10, 12 houses a year. And it's just like some student buying all these houses. And it's like, well, obviously all that money's getting funneled straight out of Shanghai, right through Macau and into that kid's bank account. Often what they would do too is they send a grandparent over, they send grandma over or whatever. The reason for that is because they get free healthcare here. So they try to send over the old grandparents who need to get a lot of money spent on healthcare. And they essentially just burden our system with that versus having to pay for that over back in China. And I don't want to single out China, but I mean, that's really what's just going on there in Vancouver. I was part of a Chinese family for nearly a decade, so I know all the ins and outs of what's going on. Because money can't be transferred out of China past, I think, 10 grand per year, they buy casino packages that are basically buying a ton of casino chips in Macau. They gamble all those chips and then they take whatever their winnings. If it's $1 million in casino chips and say they're left with 600,000, or maybe they have more, 1.2 million, who knows? And they cash that out into CAD. They ship it over they transfer it directly into an HSBC bank in Hong Kong, which then they can use directly in Port Coquitlam in Greater Vancouver, and then they buy a bunch of houses. That's how they launder the money. One of the older tactics they would do is to actually bring casino chips, and then the chips would be purchased for cash. So it's just a much easier way to just flush it straight through and gamble the chips versus trading the chips straight up. But basically these guys have cracked it open and really exposed a lot of the money that is coming through. And really the real estate market in Canada is 100% propped up by foreign laundered money. That is the initial reason why everything started to get expensive. It was Vancouver first, and then it jumped over to Toronto. Now it's everywhere. The whole thing has been exacerbated because the massive amounts of immigration plus the foreign workers coming in. There's just a supply and demand issue plus all this foreign money. Even though Trudeau just extended the foreign buyer pause for another 2 years, which is ridiculous. We should have a 100% ban on corporate purchases and on foreign purchases. No one in any other country in Canada should be able to buy unless we do a reciprocal plan with that country, such as in Thailand. I could go over there myself and buy a condo unit, but you can't actually own anything with land. And you can only buy in a building that has at least a 50% or higher ownership of Thai in that building. If we want to do the same rules that country does for us, I think that would be fine. Another example, I can't go to China and buy real estate. You have to be Chinese to buy in China. So there should be no Chinese buying in Canada, as far as I'm concerned. Why would we have rules that punish us here? It just makes no sense. The government officials who control all this stuff obviously don't know anything about anything. And we know this because they're appointed by Trudeau and they've just got there because they're buddies with him in college. Our government is run by bumbling idiots. So what's to come of this? I don't know. It's going to take someone with some courage to fix the economy here and the real estate prices. And I just don't see it happening. Either way, these guys have exposed that there is a ton of money laundering, which I already knew from working in that industry. Next up, we've got a clip here in the House of Commons of Michelle Ferrari ripping Trudeau, calling him a fake feminist. You'll see Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland didn't show up for work today, but that didn't stop Michelle from bringing some passion here to the House of Commons.
After 8 years of this Liberal NDP government, chaos and crime is at epidemic levels. Just weeks ago, a mom of 3 was murdered in Calgary in front of an elementary school in a targeted domestic killing. Her offender had previous charges, multiple active warrants, and a no-contact order. She did everything that was asked of her, and she was still murdered in broad daylight. Why? Because this Liberal government's soft-on-crime policies. Enough. We don't need summits, we need action, and we need a timeline. So when will they reverse these deadly policies?
Yeah. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, it is not a partisan issue in dealing with violence against women in this country. Crimes like that are absolutely horrific. It's something that we are working hard on with not just the Minister of Public Safety, but across government to ensure that women across this country are not only safe, but are safe to report violence. As we know, oftentimes violence starts early with domestic violence and can escalate. One of the reasons we're also banning guns.
Yeah. The Honourable Member from Peterborough, Kawartha.
Mr. Speaker, this became a partisan issue the minute this fake feminist Prime Minister let women die. is the reality. 94 municipalities in Ontario alone have declared domestic violence an epidemic. Violent crime is up almost 40%. Sexual assaults, 72%. Sex crimes against children up 126%. You can bet this is partisan. It is their policies destroying the lives of Canadians, and Conservatives will stop the crime and make sure women are not murdered in front of elementary school, and the guy who did it is behind bars.
Yeah.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to see the Conservatives fired up about taking the violence against women seriously. That is precisely why we have put in firearm legislation to deal with situations of intimate partner and gender-based violence. Mr. Speaker, we are putting a national freeze on the sale of and purchase and transfers of handguns. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to violence against women, we are going to put in place every measure possible to keep women safe. Mr. Speaker, we are committed to this, and I'm glad to see the Conservatives passionate about protecting women.
The case that Michelle Ferrari is talking about is this one. So this estranged man violated his court order twice. She had no contact order. And yeah, I mean, this is a sad story. Happened at 7:40 a.m. It's like, God, it's terrible. So the fact that Jennifer O'Connell just brought up the gun ban, if we look at the article here, which I can't say it, but it's right there. And finally, Anita Nance speaks up in the House of Commons, which is not too often. And she had this to say.
We are taking a comprehensive approach to building more housing. That means increasing supply. And we will make sure that we are there for vulnerable Canadians and the middle class.
That's where we're going to leave today's episode. Keeping you guys informed here. Be sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe with notification bell. Turn all that jazz, good stuff on. Stay warm, stay fed. I'll see you guys in the next one.